And apart from all of those working directly for the car maker, as I was saying, there may be around 100,000 other jobs in the supply chain feeding JLR with parts. The Unite Union warns that thousands of jobs are under immediate threat. And one of the MPs representing a constituency facing this threat is Dr. Neil Shastri-Hurst, the MP for Solihull West, and Shirley, who joins me now. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Shastri-Hurst, for joining me. Your constituency has companies that supply JLR, yes? Tell me a little bit about what's happening inside the community, what's happening to some of these firms.
This is an incredibly complex and stressful situation for many of my constituents, as you've touched upon earlier with your previous interviewee. 36,000 people employed by Jaguar Land Rover, more than 100,000 in the supply chain. And it's the supply chain that I'm particularly worried about at the moment, because many of those are smaller businesses who are particularly vulnerable to not getting the money flow through, the cash flow through in these scenarios. And what we're hearing is, many of my colleagues have been up and down the country, and I must stress that JLR have been incredibly good at communicating with us and keeping us up to date on how they're progressing. But what we're seeing is that more and more of these smaller organisations, part of that crucial supply chain that bring in part of that £18 billion to the UK GDP, are struggling. And I think that's where the government needs to be providing more support. I think there has been a lacuna from the government in terms of what they have said, and words at this point in time are not enough. They need to do some concrete things. And I think the most obvious way is the Department of Business and Trade, along with the Treasury and UK banks, looking at providing short-term, fully repayable loans to some of these, as I say, the SME type sector within the supply chain, in order to ensure that they can get through these incredibly challenging situations.
Mr. Shastri-Hurst, I've heard a report which suggests that the government is looking at actually buying up a lot of the components produced by the firms in your constituency and elsewhere, and, as it were, holding on to them and then passing them back to Jaguar Land Rover when Jaguar Land Rover gets going again. In other words, acting as a kind of middleman. That seems more likely than, for instance, going full furlough, going full, as it were, pandemic mode and protecting everybody's jobs.
I'm not suggesting we should go into a full furlough mode at the moment. As I say, I'm putting forward a suggestion, as I have with several other West Midlands MPs, around a short-term loan that would be fully repayable. There are other ways that can be done, but we need to step in, and we need to step in quickly as a government, or the government needs to be stepping in order to protect these organisations who are, they're worried there, and they're important contributors to both the local and the national economy.
And have you had any conversations yet, any reassurances from the Business Secretary or any other ministers? Have you talked to the Treasury at all?
We have written, as I say, a joint letter to Peter Kyle, the Business Secretary. We've yet to receive a response, and to date, I have to say, lots of warm words, but it's the concrete decisions and support that is going to be so critical to these organisations. They don't need platitudes from politicians. What they need is concrete solutions.
So the message is clear. Pull your fingers out and get going. Mr. Shastri-Hurst, thank you very much indeed for talking to me.